Hi, everyone. I'm George Christy. Welcome to the Wine Industry Network Insider Series. This is a new program for us where we introduce and interview thought leaders helping shape and direct our industry. Today's guest is Dale Stratton, president of the Wine Market Council. Dale, it's nice to see you. Welcome, and thank you for taking some time to chat with us today.
Thank you very much, George. I appreciate it, and thank you to the Wine Industry Network for having us on.
So, Dale, you've been a part of the Wine Market Council for a number of years, but you took over as president in February. And obviously, a ton has changed since February, and we're definitely going to get into that in a minute. But just to kick things off, can you tell our viewers a little bit more about the history of Wine Market Council and the role that you play in our industry?
You bet. So the Wine Market Council has been around for 25 years, and it started with the concept of elevating the wine industry and increasing consumption in a responsible manner. In order to do that, the organization had to learn about the consumer and really understand who the consumer was. They built that out, ran some television advertising at one time geared towards that. And then as the organization went on, it morphed into a research organization and really focusing in on who the wine consumer is. And we see our role today as being the voice of the wine consumer. Out there understanding who the wine consumer is, what is different about them now than there used to be, and what are they going to look like in the future, and then translating that information into usable insights that people in the wine industry can use to build and drive their business. But the core of it is just understanding who the wine consumer is and providing that information to our members.
Got it. So, as I was listening to you say that, I think that kind of reminded me that I think sometimes there's a little bit of a misconception about the benefits of membership, right? Because it is a membership-driven organization. And I think that there are some thoughts out there that it's geared towards larger producers or importers, distributors, et cetera, but maybe not so much for the small producer. How do you respond to that?
I think you use the word misconception, and I think that's right. And when you look at the work that we do, we're really able to offer something to companies of all sizes and across all areas of the wine industry. For large wine companies, the Wine Market Council is a great opportunity for them to extend their research budgets. They have research budgets, they're using that. A lot of that needs to be focused on brands and very, very specific. We can come in there, extend that budget, and give them an overview of who the wine consumer is, and allow them to channel some of that money into some other research areas that they would do. For the smaller companies, they don't have a research budget.
Right.
And for them, this can be a very affordable vehicle for them to keep pace with who the consumer is, get an understanding of how they're changing, why that's important, and then how can they build their programs to reach today's consumer, and in the end, better sell their products and build their businesses.
And I assume that the dues structures are sort of built in a way to accommodate smaller guys as well as larger guys. So it's actually could be an affordable option for them.
That's exactly right. The fee structure is very much around smaller people pay less. We put caps on everything, and it also, I think, important for us, and something that is different, is that we have all walks of the industry that are in here. We have distributors, we have suppliers, we have association members. We have people such as the Wine Industry Network, who are they're not necessarily selling wine, but they are reporting out on the wine industry and participating in the wine industry. And our due structure is set up so that we can attract all of those. And we also encourage everybody, all members, to participate as actively as they can, so that what we come up with and the things that we research are actually relevant to the entirety of the industry.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, because when you introduce all of those different perspectives, the insights that you're able to draw from that, I mean, just the conversations that you're able to have are are not anything that you're going to find at any one particular winery or any distributor. So you've got, all of these different players in the room are looking at the same thing, but from different angles. So I'm sure it makes for some really interesting conversations at the committee level.
That's right, and certainly a platform to meet other people in the industry and share is a big benefit to membership.
So just to really kind of help clarify things for people who may not be really familiar with some of the work that you've done, can you give us an example or two of some of the research products that you've done that they may not be aware of?
Yeah, the cornerstone of our research is our segmentation study. And we have been doing a segmentation study for 25 years. So we have a history of who the wine consumer is. And our segmentation is really about consumption patterns. And of the adult population in the United States, what is it that they're drinking in the beverage alcohol space? And I think that's a very important point, because today's consumer more than ever is participating in all three major categories. And I would say with the advent of seltzers, that consumer sees that as a whole new fourth segment, and getting an understanding of that. And where does wine fit into that? And how does wine win that occasion? So we know that there's approximately 95 million wine drinkers in the country. And out of our segmentation study, we look at it, and 25% of the population are occasional wine consumers, and then 14% are high frequency wine consumers. And that 14% is so important to the industry. These are consumers who drink wine at least once a week, and they're really the ones that are driving the volume in that. So that segmentation study looks at demographics, age, gender, education, looks at all of those things so that you have an understanding of who those consumers are. And we do that on a regular basis so that we're able to watch those trends change.
Right.
Then also for us, we do research in many different areas. Product. We can do product-oriented ones. When we saw rosés getting hot, we did consumer research on rosés, and do consumers like light colored ones? Do they like darker colored ones? Do they go into those visual things? And do they like serious names? Do they like more playful names? So we could do all of that research, and we did that for rosé. We also can dig into shopping habits and talking to consumers about where they're purchasing their wine product. We recently did one that was around online shopping, and that has proved to be very, very valuable. As we know, with the shelter-in-place initiatives that have been kicked in, online shopping boomed. We saw a very, very big increase on that. We had already done some research that gave very, very good insights into the different types of online shoppers, and they're very different, right? The person who shops at a winery website, the person who is a club member, and the person who buys wine online directly from retail. Those are three different shoppers,
right?
And that was a really interesting piece of research that we did. And we can also do lifestyle, and we're looking at some lifestyle type research right now that will be done here in the next year or so.
Interesting. I think the online shopping I'll be curious to see how that unfolds going forward. Is it something that's just driven by the circumstances, or what I guess in the case of Zoom meetings, right? So Zoom is not a brand new piece of technology that we just discovered, right? That's been around, but no one's used it the way they've been using it these last 3 months. And personally, I love it, right? I love the ability to be able to talk to people, whether they're customers or coworkers. That's a technology we're going to continue to use that. I'll be curious to see if online shopping continues in the same way going forward once we hopefully put all this behind us.
Yeah, you make a really good point. I think about a company like Drizzly, and have had some conversations with Corey from Drizzly and done some webinars with him. And Drizzly didn't invent liquor store delivery.
Right.
Right? That's been around forever.
Right.
What they did was built a great platform that made it easier for the consumer or easier for the shopper to do that. There was a clear benefit to the retailer to have that, a clear benefit to the consumer. They filled that gap, and all at once, that moment hit, and their business is exploding.
Yeah.
And to your point, there's going to be a portion of those consumers absolutely that are going to stick with that, and that Drizzly will be a part of their shopping future. So it's interesting to see how these things change. And your Zoom example, I think, is exactly that.
Yeah, that can, once you get used to that convenience factor, right? It's tough to go, you know what? I think I'd rather get in my car and drive to the store and,
That's right.
don't
Yeah,
have to.
exactly.
Well, the good segue. So to my next question here. So when you took over in February, nobody could imagine that we'd be dealing with what we're dealing with now. And it's impacted, obviously not just our industry, but every industry and every business within every industry. Tell me a little bit about how it's impacted the Wine Market Council and some of the work that you had planned for 2020.
Yeah, interesting, because it did have an impact on us. And we had 2 studies that were in flight that we had to put on hold. And the first one was about bottle weight. And as we were talking to members, lightweighting bottles is something that is a pretty big initiative for a number of our members. And for all the right reasons. The question is, does the consumer know? Does the consumer care? So we were heading down the path of doing research on bottle weight. You had to be physically present to do that.
Right.
Because you actually had to touch a bottle, you had to hold a bottle, and to do that. So with shelter in place, we had to put that on hold. The second piece of research, and I think this is going to be a really important piece of research for the industry, and this is around what role does wine play for people who are living a wellness lifestyle. And as we looked at that, we've got that study ready to go. We just felt that talking about a wellness lifestyle during a pandemic was going to give us skewed results. So we've put that on hold. We're definitely going to come back to that. We're gonna reopen that. We're targeting right now January to talk about the role that wine does or does not play in a wellness lifestyle. And that will, I think, shape a lot of thinking that we do in the future, but we had to put that on hold. Then, the other thing that we did, and I think this is very interesting, is we took a step back. There's a lot of external factors that are going to come into play and that are coming into play. They've always been there, but I think they're very much amplified right now. So we're going to start a partnership with a company called Civic Science. Civic Science is a research company out of Pittsburgh, and they do online polling of consumers, and they get 5.5 million questions answered every day. So their reach is incredible. And, as we started talking to them and looking at some of their data, a couple of things that popped out that I think are really interesting. We spoke about the ramp up of online shopping. Well, as they looked at wine shoppers, 85% of all wine shoppers say they're not interested in buying wine online. There's some differences in age group, but the net of it is the vast majority of people still are not there yet of buying wine online. Our job would be, and we did this in our research, was to find out why that is, right, and dig into that and how do we solve those. They also showed a poll that came out about a month ago. We'll report out on how that has changed. 42% of all consumers said that they're just not ready to visit a restaurant. And it's fine that a restaurant opens, and that's great. But 42% of the population, and this is about a month ago, said that they're not ready to return to that. So those are things that we'll be able to monitor. And it's really, to me, that next step on not just the wine business, but what are those parallel areas that impact the wine business on a daily basis that we need answers for. And that partnership with Civic Science, I think, is going to give us a great opportunity to assist our members in giving them that information.
Yeah, I think that's That's really interesting because you're gathering this information in real time at in a time period where things are changing so rapidly, right? So last month, 42% of people weren't comfortable going to a restaurant. A month from now, it could be 52, it could be 22, right? It's just everything is so unpredictable. So the ability to gather information in real time, the way that it sounds like you are, is really exciting, actually.
It is, and we're really excited about that partnership with Civic Science.
So speaking of partnerships, in June you announced that Christy Miller, who's the proprietor of Full Glass Research, would be taking on the role of Director of Research. And I know that everyone was super excited about that. But tell me a little bit more about Christian and what we can expect his contributions to be at the Wine Market Council.
Yeah, so we brought Christian Miller on board. I think the first thing we should say is that he's stepping in to Jennifer Pagano's position. Jennifer Pagano, and we wanted to thank Jennifer Pagano for her 20 years with the Wine Market Council, and Jennifer did that for 25 years. And she now has gone on and she is working for a company called Curion Insights, and we'll probably do work with them. They're a great company. So congratulations to Jennifer, and a big thank you to her for all she did for the Wine Market Council, and certainly for Christian, those are big shoes to fill. But Christian's the right person to do it. Christian has been working with the Wine Market Council throughout the years. He was actually a member of the original research committee when the Wine Market Council started. But Christian brings such a vast experience to his research and to his role. He has been in almost every aspect of the wine business that you can think of, be it a negotiant, working in restaurants, working at wineries, marketing big brands, small brands, and has now been for the better part of 20 years doing very focused research. Christian has a great understanding of the wine consumer. He understands the luxury consumer very, very well, which is important to a lot of our members. And he's just a fabulous researcher. So very, very happy with the transition that we're going through here. I think it's going to be a very smooth transition with Christian stepping in. We won't miss a beat. And I think that we can expect to see our research get even better, and that Christian will take it to the next level as we take on the challenges that are facing the industry going forward. Well,
it just sounds like exciting times over at Wine Market Council, right? You've got some fresh blood, and you've got some fresh ideas. You've got a pandemic to deal with and figure out. So lots of action over there. Dale, for any wine industry company that's interested in learning more about membership and benefits of membership, what advice do you have for them? What should they do?
Yeah, I think that I would start with, ask yourself a question: to what degree do I know my wine consumer? To what degree, the consumer of my product, to what degree do I understand who that is? And then ask yourself if you think that consumer is different today than they were 6 months ago, and 3 months ago. When we think about what's going on in the world right now, it's changing rapidly, and habits are changing very rapidly. And then, more importantly, what's my consumer going to look like in a year? And what are they going to be? And if you don't have the answer to those questions, then come be a part of the solution. Join the Wine Market Council. We get to that. We understand who today's wine consumer is on a broad basis. We understand specifics about them, and we gear our money towards answering the questions of our members, and really think that everything needs to start with the consumer. If you don't know who your consumer is, you're going to have to lift harder to get your product sold. Starting with an understanding of who they are, what drives their behavior, is going to help you sell more wine. And we're in a position to help do that, and that's what drives us every day.
All right, last question. I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. So as we were heading into the COVID-19, the sales were fairly flat. Growth was fairly flat in the wine category, and there was a lot of discussion around that. There was obviously a little bit of a spike in some ways, right? When people first reacted, we saw a lot. You talked a little bit about online sales spiking. I know the off-premise sales did well. There was obviously nothing happening in the restaurants. The DTC channel had a nice little spike there in the very beginning. Any predictions on how you see things unfolding over the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I think that, and you're right, that, as an industry, we had a fabulous 20+ year run of pretty natural growth. Now, outsiders looking in think it's easy. Nothing's easy.
Right.
There was a lot of hard work that went into that growth, and everybody in this industry worked very hard to get that growth. I'm seeing glimmers of hope here, and I would tell you that in 4 months ago, I was a bit of a bear on the category. In the work that I'm doing, man, these challenges were getting tough. A lot of the things that have happened here have really brought back wine consumption, and I do think that things like people returning to a family meal, and even if that family meal is 2 people, that having that glass of wine. It used to be that, if I was spending an hour and a half in the car at the end of the day, by the time I got home, I didn't have time to sit down and relax. Now my commute is walking from one room to the kitchen. And you know what? I've got time for that. And I enjoy that. And having my 1 glass of wine a day is really good. So I think we're seeing some of that happen. And so as I look out at the next 6 months, I think there's a big, strong list of challenges that are there. And some of that is consumer demographics. Some of that is competitive products that are coming in and identifying some really good targeted places for them to get consumers. But man, really starting to see some things that I believe are going to stabilize the category and give us an opportunity as a category to drive great growth. But I think we really need to get back, take a step back, and think about what are we as an industry going to do. And we have an opportunity to keep those consumers that moved back a little bit, but we're going to have to do some things as an industry to appeal to them. And we certainly at Wine Market Council are going to be focused on delivering information to help solve that.
Well, that's great. I hope, obviously, I hope that you're right. I think that you are. And, if nothing else, we've certainly seen a lot of explosion of resourcefulness, explosion of creativity coming from the industry, right? Because you have no choice, right? And they say necessity is the mother of invention. So I hope that we continue to see this, that trend going forward. Dale, is there anything else before we wrap it up about the Wine Market Council that we didn't cover that you wanted to share?
No, just winemarketcouncil.com is the website for all of you out there. If you want to know more, go visit our website. There's a dues calculator on there. Jump on, understand what your dues are. If there's any questions, I think there's a contact link there for me and my email. Would love to chat with you and love to give you more information on what the Wine Market Council is about. And would love to have you join the Wine Market Council and help us build the wine industry.
Well, and I'm gonna throw my own little plug at you. I know that when we were looking at membership, everyone was incredibly responsive, and at the ready to answer any questions that we had. So I echo exactly what you just said. Dale, thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are, and I look forward to seeing you again in person soon.
You as well, George. Thank you very much. And thank you to the Wine Industry Network. We appreciate the time.
Excellent. Thanks, Dale.
Bye now.